Yeah. Boom to the hay, all you sports fans out there in the tubosphere. To you, the individual, as part of the collective. Welcome to Fast Track Sports Archives here on Talk Radio, version of the OMSR. I am your brief but very concise host, Will, the alternative ESPN sports thrill. It's that time of year. The OMSR tries to add to that tension, turn up the tension as we wait for the end of August, college football spring news and such. Talking briefly and concisely about coaches on the hot seat, or at least coaches who haven't even really gotten started yet, getting like some attention. Some of it fair, some of it unfair. Charlie Strong and his, shall we say, friendly personality disorder, and Steve Sarkisian, in some opinions, already on the hot seat. No. On both counts. It's going to be the Quickie Sport Rat defending these dudes. Then a little tribute to, always seems like every year we lose somebody who was a real popular player at their respective school. And it's some dazzling highlights from Minnesota receiver. In the meantime, roll clips.
Welcome into College Football Live. I'm Danny Cannell alongside Robert Smith and the illustrious Joe Shad. We're on our casual set. No ties. We got the couch. We're kicking back, talking some football. So let's get right to it. Let's get to today's buzz. Today out in Texas, they haven't even played a game yet. Charlie Strong's personality, or lack thereof, I should say, is being questioned yet again. Our ESPN.com insider Travis Haney was at an Angelo State coaching clinic where Coach Strong gave a 20-minute presentation to a group of Texas high school football coaches, and according to Haney, it didn't go over well. Some of the high school coaches that he spoke to, they were less than impressed. But bottom line, is this a big deal or no big deal?
Well, it's a big deal for now, at least until the next opportunity that he has to get in front of the coaches or until they start playing games. Ultimately, that's going to be how he will be judged. But make no mistake about it. You buy the ticket at Texas, you take the ride. This is exactly what you knew you were signing up for. These guys are the gatekeepers. Those high school coaches down there in the state of Texas, somewhere on the order of 350 Division I recruits a year that they produce. You have got to make inroads with those guys. You have to convince them that you're one of them, that you love coaching, that you love being around it. So for right now, it is a big deal. I think it's a big deal because perception is reality.
Charlie Strong has proven that he can win football games. He's proven he can recruit. He's proven he can coach defense. Texas is a place where we know they have everything you need to win. So basically, don't screw it up. One way to screw it up is to anger the high school coaches in the state, because you need those guys. You need to develop rapport, a relationship, a connection. When Charlie Strong was hired, everyone said, look, he has all the attributes of a guy who can win a lot of football games, but we are concerned about how well he will play in the big room. And that, from all accounts, that was not a very good speech.
No, and Travis Haney talked to some of those coaches that he's trying to impress. Some of the quotes that he got from them was, one coach said, I think everyone was shocked, it was bad. Another one said, it made me miss Mac. And I think that has a lot to do with it. You're following Mac Brown, who was maybe one of the best ever at dealing with the media, being that face of a program.
Now, some of those high school coaches wanted Baylor's Art Briles, who was once one of them, to get the job. Many coaches at Texas A&M, Kevin Sumlin, and many staffers have developed strong relationships with those Texas high school football coaches. So Charlie Strong has got to figure out a way to catch up to those guys. I spoke to a college head coach in the state of Texas who told me today, quote, Texas high school coaches will hurt you if they feel you are aloof, arrogant, or distant.
It's like they have this little local mafia of themselves. Like, we're not gonna let our guys go to your school. Look, Charlie Strong recruited me out of high school, and he was one of the best recruits that I've ever sat down with. He knew how to go in, how to talk to a student athlete, and to talk to their family, how to talk to the mom and dad. He was outstanding with it. I've covered him. Yeah, he's not the most extroverted person in the world out there coaching, but there are a lot of coaches who have had a ton of success. You look at Bill Belichick. Is he the most, jovial guy when he's dealing with the media or doing these types? No, exactly. He's not.
Popovich.
I think the one thing that this could help, though, are guys like Kevin Sumlin and Art Browse, who you mentioned. What type of impact do you think it could have on the recruiting end?
Well, once again, I think he's being judged on a body of work that's this big right now. We're talking, I mean, hey, welcome to the 24/7 news cycle. This is what we do. The coaches are evaluating that right now. But I think, once again, when he gets to that next clinic, it's going to be a lot different. The SID is going to sit him down and say, look, we got to handle this a little bit differently. Now, from what
you don't think they have already, though?
Well, they're going to after this, though. I don't think it's going to happen again, number one. But number two, he's going to be judged on how he coaches the team. When he's sitting one-on-one in the living room with a family, when he's in there and he's visiting that player, talking to that head coach, that's how he's going to be judged. It's not going to be, hey, did you have the most entertaining coaches clinic that I've ever been to? I think it's fair in the sense that it's University of Texas, but it's all we have to judge on. It's just one conference.
Let's move out west, where our ESPN.com Pac-12 reporter Ted Miller released his coaches on the hot seat. Never too early for that, for the conference. And while these top three might not be surprising, Sonny Dykes was 1-11. Kyle Whittingham is trying to avoid his third losing season. Mark Helfrich might raise some eyebrows. He's still struggling to fill the shoes of Chip Kelly. But check out who's coming in number 4. Another coach who hasn't even coached one game, Steve Sarkisian. And already Miller has him batting cleanup on this list that no one wants to be on. Robert, is this fair or is this unfair?
It's fair. First of all, he's not number 1. Okay.
Right.
So he's not right at the top of the list. And I think when you're coaching a team, especially at a USC, you're coaching your players, you're coaching against the opponent, but you're coaching against expectations as well. This is USC. The sanctions are going to be ending, and I think you have to consider the circumstances here as well. There are a lot of people that thought that Ed Orgeron, with the job that he did replacing Lane Kiffin last year, that he was going to be in that spot. You look up at Washington, who was Steve Sarkisian's replacement, Chris Peterson. A lot of people thought that he might have been in at that job. So I think that has something to do with this. Then you look in the other side of L.A., you look at Jim Mora and what he's done at UCLA. Of course he's going to be on the hot seat. People are going to look at the situation with the sanctions ending. They're saying, hey, this is still USC. This is still where Pete Carroll was. This is still where all those Heisman trophies, national championships were. This is what you have to expect if you're the coach.
Yeah, I agree. There's pressure. Okay, but how can you be on a hot seat when the ride hasn't even started? With all respect to Ted Miller, who's a wonderful writer and reporter and does a great job on that blog, how can you suggest in any way that Sarkisian's job is already in jeopardy when it hasn't even started?
It's a list. Who was 12?
Mike McIntyre of Colorado.
Right.
They made a little bit of improvement, but it has not been a stellar start to the Colorado Pac-12 era. Mike Riley at Oregon State, who's an outstanding coach, but there are some boosters and fans who think, you know what, maybe it's time for a change.
We can bring in semantics of like how we define hot seat, but I
think it means how close are you to possibly being fired.
But I think and we go all around the country, all of us go around and cover college football games. We get to sit in meetings with coaches, and I bet there are maybe 10 that feel like they're not on a hot seat.
Yeah.
Every other coach out there, 100 plus, all feel like they are one season away from being fired. And then maybe it's the nature of them, they realize that they're making a lot of money. It is a big business. They are the face of the program. And that's where I would think.
And there's no grace period.
And you sit in a room with Steve Sarkisian right now, and it's not just coach speak. I guarantee you he would be very happy to say, yes, I'm on the hot seat. My expectations for myself are higher than anybody else outside of this room have for me. So I think that he welcomes it. He understands what it means to coach at USC. That's why he is so happy about being in this position.
Nothing less than championships will be acceptable. I understand that. I appreciate that. Lane Kiffin had an average win-loss record of 8-4, won 65% of his games, which is 10%.
Washington.
It was Washington. Now the resources are better. Now the tradition and the legacy and the history, especially recent history, yes, he is expected to win championships and win at least 9 or 10 games every year. But to say that he's already on the hot seat, I think Sark will say, that's not fair.
But I think it's no coincidence either that the past two coaches we've talked about, look at the programs we're talking about, Texas and UNC.
Blue Bloods.
And Blue Bloods.
We know much
powerhouses where the expectations of the fan base, the student base, the booster, the alumni, everybody is to win championships. Love talking about college football. It brings us a lot of happiness, but every once in a while things happen that bring incredible sadness to our heart, and that's exactly what happened down at Auburn. Philip Lutzenkirchen, a member of the 2010 Auburn National Championship team and one of the most popular players in recent Tigers history, died in an automobile accident early Sunday morning. Lutzenkirchen caught 59 passes for 628 yards and 14 touchdowns at Auburn. More than 50 Auburn fans gathered Sunday afternoon to roll a tree and silently remember and celebrate Lutzenkirchen's life. The impromptu gathering at Toomer's Corner picked up steam thanks to word spreading on Twitter leading up to the 4:30 p.m. the unofficial start time for the rolling of the trees adjacent to the site where Toomer's Oaks once stood. Philip Lutzenkirchen was 23 years old. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family. All right, it's time for 3 and Out. The University of North Carolina has received a verbal notice of inquiry from the NCAA that it will reopen its 2011 examination of academic irregularities. The NCAA has determined that additional people with information and others who were previously uncooperative might now be willing to speak with the enforcement staff. All right, number 2, check this out. This is pretty impressive. Minnesota wideout Logan Hutton doing a backflip and catching not 1 but 2 footballs at the same time. I had to go back and look slow-mo just so you could see the catches.
So impressive. I guess
What's more impressive, the catch on the
with 2 one-handed catches and a backflip.
All right, now about number 3, a provocative tweet from Alabama safety Landon Collins saying it's getting close and this year is a season of reckoning. The fluke stuff will not happen this time.
All right. Some good stuff going on there. And I say that with all respect to, and not so much good, but a nice little highlighter if you missed it, with respect and tribute to Auburn's tight end, who had a big impact on their championship year season. Stupid car accidents and college players, and it's always early in the morning. You know, dudes out late and so forth. Who was driving? What were the conditions and so forth? We don't know that. I'm sure you could look it up, but it wasn't said or stated as such on the program. Alright, in case you're wondering why there's been like a couple-week lag between, what was it, USC sanctions. Actually, it's a pretty good segue. That was the last College Football Live show that I did, or profile, with the USC sanctions ending, and now we're talking about Steve Sarkisian being on the hot seat, and the season hasn't even started yet. Come on. But they switched over to this In the Lounge with College Football Live set. And so I just had a hard time accepting it or looking at it and listening and not snickering with the, okay, you might expect Sports Nation to try something kitschy-catchy like that, but that's College Football Live. I don't know who decided to change that up. Whatever, I've gotten used to it, accepted it, moving on. Now, you don't hire somebody who's as affable and likable as Mac Brown because his likability and his interaction with the media down there, as they were saying, you gotta make the Texas high school coaches like you. Really? I mean, the players ultimately in their senior year in high school are going to make the decision. That struck me as a little bit odd. But, yeah, you're going to hire somebody like Charlie Strong, who has proven he can win. The personality warm-up phase ideally will come later. And then with regard to Sark the Shark, and the main reason sort of quoted, and not that our guys, you know, on this particular program who were hosting agreed with that, but what was quoted and what you can certainly sort of get a feel for, the main reason is, well, because the sanctions have ended. Okay, then you got to give it 2 or 3 years for recruiting to show its effect. It's not going to kick in this year. Now, the OMSR being in SoCal certainly has sung the praises of USC of yesteryear. And has even put out there, if not for a couple of Pac-10 at the time, schools, I'm talking to you, Oregon State, and then UCLA the next year, both losing records, screwing it up for USC. You'd have 3 BCS national championships in a row.